Hi guys, I'm Dom Kane and welcome to the second episode of the Kane Audio podcast. For more information on the podcast or any of our guest interviews or even just some music production tips and tricks, you can head to kaneaudio.com and you can check out the blog there. Before we get into the show, I'd just like to thank everyone who's helped spread the word about this podcast on social media. Since it's such a new podcast, any publicity at all really does make a difference. If you'd like to suggest any other guests or features, you can email us directly using podcast@kaneaudio.com or find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google, and all the usual places. This month's guest is one of the men behind Bitwig, the latest in digital audio workstations to make an impact on the industry. Pretty much a game changer that seems to be making most of the big names quake in their boots. He's Berlin-based and live on the line right now. It is, of course, Dom Wilms. So welcome to the Kane Audio podcast. Good to have you on.
Yeah, hey Dom. Nice to be here.
Yeah, finally. Okay, well, obviously you're one of the men behind Bitwig, so obviously the focus of the show is going to be on that. I guess the biggest question really is how and why did Bitwig even begin?
How and why did it begin? Yeah, first it began with creating the whole framework for then developing the whole thing. So it was 3 developers that were working at Ableton.
Yeah.
And they got to know each other there. And they started the company a few years ago.
Okay.
And started just to hack away. And first thing was to do the whole framework so that it is possible to do it on 3 platforms at the same time. Because the way the guys work is not that you actually implement something on Windows, for example, and then port the whole thing to other operating systems.
Right.
We are developing on all 3 platforms at the same time, actually.
Right, so the actual foundations of Bitwig is that it applies to all 3 platforms at the same time.
Exactly.
Right,
exactly.
Okay. Because that was actually going to be one of my questions really, was why Linux? Why did you take that route? And
yeah, the other question is, why isn't there something like that on Linux?
Well, true.
Yeah, the advantage was if you start really from scratch, it's not really easy, but it's really more doable.
Yeah.
To do it directly on Linux than just taking an existing product that you have for like a code base of 10 or 20 years and try to make that work on another operating system.
Sure.
Because if you didn't start thinking about that, then it doesn't work.
Has there been much of a take up on Linux? Have you got many Linux users?
It's around 5 to 10%, I would say.
Wow, okay, that's a lot more than I thought then.
Yeah, it was very interesting because it was more or less a world's first. There were a few audio applications on Linux, but those were mostly open source projects. And what you expect nowadays from a DAW is pretty much of rocket science. Those sequencers have grown so much in the last 10 or 20 years. If I remember how I started with trackers in the 90s or with Atari and Cubase One, and that has come a long way. And if you just take a look at the DAW, you actually forget about what it is already. And yeah, going back to Linux, there were a few projects, but if you have just a few guys working in their spare time on that and an open source project, it is hard to get something going that is as big as a sequencer these days.
Yeah.
So,
well, this was one of the things that I think I've always wondered about Bitwig is I mean, I guess it comes down to the question of why start a new DAW? What was it that led you to think, we need a new DAW?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there were a lot of people that were like, yeah, start a new one.
Yeah.
Aren't there enough? So, yeah, we always thought, no, there's still space for another one, and things are evolving. And if you take a look at the old school DAWs we have around, like Pro Tools, Cubase, Logic, they're really, really old now.
Yeah.
And it's still about the same workflows like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. There was not too much change to that.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at all those products, they all offer more or less the same functionality. I always say you can more or less produce every album out there with just any sequencer you can find.
Yeah.
They all have the
yeah.
same stuff. It comes only down to the workflow and how quick you are. And for me, at least, how creative I am in a DAW. So somehow it has to motivate me to be creative. I was the Logic head for a decade.
Okay.
And I loved Logic because it's a power horse.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it feels like working with a big office software package. So
yeah. I mean, that's exactly
Word
how I
doesn't
feel
really
with,
invite me to write a poem.
No, that's exactly it, and that's
So-
how I feel about Pro Tools. You know, I've been on Pro Tools since version whatever it was. I think 1 or 2, and you know, I still use Pro Tools for my mix down and mastering, but. Yeah, I just feel like every time you want to, I don't know, automate some reverb or something along those lines, you know, you feel like you're applying for a government grant or something. It's
Exactly.
you know.
So yeah, that's how I compare it. If you're working with such software products, you really have to have in your head already what you want to get out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really invite you to jam with it or to make it your instrument.
Was it built out of frustration of Ableton's capabilities or limited capabilities, or you know, because I mean, I know I spoke to you the other day about this, so it's obviously something that needs clearing up. There seems to be rumors around the internet, and they have been since day one of Bitwig, of you know, conspiracy theories of people against Ableton or whatever the case. What was the reason, or was there a reason for leaving Ableton to join Bitwig? Because I know a lot of the staff, or a few of the staff at least at Bitwig, are ex-Ableton. You know, was it a question of you made Bitwig because you could, or was it a question of you made Bitwig because you felt that Ableton wasn't doing enough, or what was it?
No, actually, it's just dedication to what you love, and yeah, it's the internet, and they just love conspiracy theories. So the internet is full of it. And sure, this is a topic that just invites like rumors and things like that. But people often ask me, yeah, was Bitwig really started to somehow kill Ableton or whatever? No. What kind of idea would that be? I mean, you don't put years of work and money and dedication into a project just to do a revenge thing.
Yeah.
Which is like suicide.
Yeah.
You can't just try. And after the announcement, it was so funny because people saw the screenshots and they were referring to it as a live copycat.
Yeah, I think that was probably the thing that got people talking about it, wasn't it? Was the fact that there were similarities in the screen workflow, albeit,
and especially the whole thing with being able to make use of clips in a non-linear fashion, like all the arrangement page style. And yeah, that's a topic that always comes up. And I always answer it's exactly the other way around. If you start a new sequencer nowadays, why, as I referred to just a few sentences before, all the workflow things are the same since 10 or 20 years. And we are still working like on a tape machine. And if you take a look at how kids nowadays produce EDM, things like that, it's really only working on snippets of audio, different effects, and then this old workflow doesn't apply anymore. So we all should be thankful for Ableton Live really taking the plunge and trying to bring back that whole pattern-based sequencing into the linear DAW world. I mean, when we started, I think you should be my age, I guess.
Yeah.
It was far more intuitive to work with drum boxes. Take a Roland TR, take a TB303, whatever. You were thinking in patterns. And that's where this whole structure of the DJ and club music we have comes from. And somehow all the DAWs never picked that really up. So, to start again, if you do a new sequencer, I think it's just wrong to not pick that workflow up.
Yeah, that's an interesting similarity with the groove boxes we've been using for years. Have that clip mode essentially. You know, they're just a clip launcher,
Exactly.
And yet we've always, traditionally recorded the entire song in when all we really needed to do was record a small clip and repeat it.
Exactly that. Yeah, so that's just the thing, and we thought we can improve on a lot of concepts that are out there. So it was really not about taking Ableton Live and somehow remixing it to do something that could compete with it. I mean, that wouldn't make sense at all. So what we did, we are synthesizer and sequencer geeks since 20 years. And we just cherry-picked what we loved about all the concepts from the last 2 decades, being it Grooveboxes, being it Cubase on Atari, being it really years and years and years of work and logic. And yeah, if you work with Bitwig Studio, you suddenly notice that you actually take the thing for a spin for the first time, and first you think, yeah, that it looks a bit like Ableton Live, but it also looks a bit like Cubase or Logic. And as soon as you use it, you feel how much thought went in there, and that it's not really a copy of something.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different to the others from my perspective. I mean, as an engineer, I tend to stick with the more robust engineering tools like Wavelab or Pro Tools, but I do find as an artist, my go-to place is Bitwig Studio these days, and it's the little things that drag me into there. Things like it doesn't care if you're using MIDI or audio. It doesn't care what you throw at it. In that extent, so for me as an artist, it means I'm a lot more creatively free, and I think that's probably key to Bitwig's success so far.
That's the whole point, I think. Just as I said, they have all the same functionality, you have all the same time stretching in there, and all the different plugins and whatever. So take all this and start from scratch and try to incorporate that into a workflow that makes fun, because I don't want to think about how I achieve something that I have in my head. And it was also something that goes back to the hardware days when you're working on an MPC or really just with Cubase on an Atari and a synthesizer and a drum box. It didn't really feel like working on a program. It was more like using dedicated boxes, and it was more like actually doing something that is not operating a computer. And I think it's cool to try to get that feeling back a bit.
Yeah. I mean, you work, I guess a lot of your time is filled with technical support, especially with you being on version 1 of Bitwig. So, you can safely assume 99% of your users are new to Bitwig Studio. Do you find you're getting, I mean, I'm asking this kind of rhetorically, really, because I think I know the answer, but do you find you keep getting the same issues coming up over and over again from new users? Is there something that they do or don't do with Bitwig other than read the manual, which is something we know not many people do these days?
What is really nice is that most often we hear how easy it is to start with it. So it is interesting to see that most of our users come from other software, and most of them are guys that really use sequencer software since years and years and years.
Okay.
It's not really the newbie that thinks, okay, I start production now, and what is a tool to get? Because those are normally grabbing for the product that their favorite artist is using.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about music production, you don't jump on a completely new program that you have not heard of, and then you try to Google your favorite artist and use that. Yeah. It's totally interesting that we get a lot of people from Cubase switching over. We get a lot of people from Logic switching over. And it feels like from those areas, from those products, there are more people converting to Bitwig than from Ableton, and that's totally logical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I know. Before I started using Bitwig, I was an avid Ableton user, and I think for the Ableton users, it's probably the most frustrating. to convert, because if you're coming from Pro Tools or Logic or something, it's such a totally new concept to the user that it becomes easy to learn. Whereas I think, old habits die hard with Ableton users.
Exactly.
And we're so used to having the session view screen and being able to manipulate clips in that if there are any shortcut keys or anything that are slightly different in Bitwig, I think it perhaps becomes a bit more frustrating. On that note, though, do you actually make a note of where people are coming from? So, for example,
we don't ask them all.
No.
but normally, if they contact you, they're totally motivated to tell you, "Wow, I saw your program. I tried it out, and I'm totally hooked. I did more music in the last week than during the last 3 months, and it's really nice to hear."
Yeah.
So, and as I said, a lot of the old cool cats are jumping on Bitwig because they immediately see how much thought went in there, because they know all their workflows, they know how to achieve things in different products, and then they try Bitwig and they want to do something, and boom, you just did it.
Yeah.
Without really fiddling with a lot of menus. And I think that's why a lot of people from Cubase and stuff are coming over, because if Ableton Live is working for you, that's great. It is, at the moment, the biggest sequencer that gives you the linear sequencing and the arrangement and the clip launching stuff at the same time. And what is interesting is that a lot of people coming from the traditional sequencers, they all tried Ableton Live, but for a lot of them that are still on Cubase and Logic, they didn't really click with Ableton Live.
Right.
Because there the arrangement really works in a different way compared to all the others regarding the tool selection and how you work there. So if they try Bitwig, and they are always curious about incorporating new ways to jam with music, Bitwig is it's closer to what they are used to. So they're jumping on that really, really more often at the moment.
Yeah. Do you find? I know you've teamed up with a couple of VST developers as well. Namely, is it Yuhi? You joined teams with recently. Are you looking at working with any VST developers in creating not necessarily Bitwig specific VSTs, but is there anything in the pipeline where perhaps you see a gap in the market where maybe there's a function from within Bitwig that could really be harnessed by VST developers?
Yeah, there are different things that are happening right now. So we were the first to open the door to really make plugin developers interested in porting their stuff to Linux, because there was a chicken and egg problem.
Yeah.
All the software companies that were doing DAWs were like, why should we do the whole work and port it to Linux? There are not even VSTs available.
Yeah.
And the VST companies the other way around. Hey, there's not a single serious host out there, so why should we do that? And yeah, we just took the plunge and did Bitwig Studio also for Linux. And now it starts to happen.
Is there
now the URS plugins, the UE plugins, are all available as a Linux version too.
Oh, they are they? Okay.
Yeah. So there was one guy, Alexandre Big, who also installed Bitwig on his Linux machine because he loves Linux. And then he contacted Urs Heckmann and asked him, so yeah, can I port your plugins to Linux? And so that is how this happened. And now a month ago, actually, Alexandre started at Bitwig. So it's our fourth developer.
Okay.
And I think that is one thing that we try to encourage developers to give it a try. It's most often isn't that hard to port them to Linux, especially if you use a framework like Juice or things like that. Then it's quite easy. And on the other hand, there's the whole development, what we also try to drive forward about the MIDI controller thing, more expression, all those multi-dimensional controllers like the Linstrument by Roger Lin now, or the Seaboard by Rowley, the Eigenharp, all those new controllers that try to give more expression to one note, something that we already incorporated in Bitwig 1 during the release with our per note expression things.
Yeah.
So there is now a specification that currently is growing. We all met during the NAMM show this and last year, and There's the roadie guys are on board, and Roger Lynn is on board, and Keith McMillan is on board, and Bitwig was on board because of the per note thing that we had in the sequencer, and the goal was to do a new specification for MIDI message handling so that every single node can have more parameters than just velocity and its pitch. And yeah, that's what we also showed already on Musikmesse with our instrument, that we incorporated that, so you can actually record the notes you play on the instrument and to see the different pitches on the single notes, for example.
Okay.
And now the other end is actually how to speak to a plugin so that the plugin understands that. And this is what that MIDI specification thing is about. So there's a little paper now already on the net with the first draft of the specification. So interesting times.
Very interesting.
And it was really nice to sit there with the old heroes of mine, like Roger Lynn and Keith McMillan, Don Buchler was there,
wow.
and actually Roger Lynn having done so much specification work back in the days for the original MIDI.
Yeah.
And I was a kid when I started with that and reading about those guys, and now just meeting them and being able to influence the same industry now, it's really exciting. So yeah, that's all at the plugin front at the moment, what we try to.
Do you think that will have an effect on the live performance side? In fact, on that note, do you? I mean, I guess it's hard for you to see from your end, but do you find many of your users signing up to use it as a live performance tool?
Yeah, first people are actually using it already on stage.
Okay.
And this is really a compliment, because taking the software on stage, you really have to trust it way more than just using it in the dark studio. And
yeah, and I think MIDI in general has been something that people are often scared of using on a stage. And
especially up to now, there were really a few functions missing that you really would like to have on stage. There was not everything MIDI learnable, but everything done via scripting. And if you're not into scripting, you would hit a wall just by trying to assign clips to a certain note, something like that. So this is all now in 1.2, where you can have, we have actually 2 sections now. You can do MIDI and keyboard assignments for the project.
Right. And
they get saved with the project, so you can MIDI learn and key learn everything there. And then we have the shortcut section now in version 1.2, also globally in the menu. And this one is saved for the program, so you can have just any function that is in there trained to a shortcut on your keyboard, so the computer keyboard, or a MIDI function within the program, and then you can do the same for the project, and that overrides it.
That's, I mean, I know it's nerdy, but that's really exciting. Because I speak from, having been a live performer doing laptop performances for a long time now. MIDI has always been sort of, or the translation of MIDI from one device to another has always been, a real problem. And, I've always had to, start up all sorts of applications and scripts in the background for one device to talk to another. So I think, from a performer perspective, if that can be more user-friendly and trustworthy, then that's a huge step into the future.
Absolutely. And in the end, you want to have both. You want to just flick a button and be able to just MIDI map something to your software, like with a blink of your eye. And on the other hand, you want to have the power of the scripts to be able to do a really smart integration.
Yeah,
there's so cool scripts actually out there now. Have you checked out the Panorama keyboards?
No, I haven't. No.
From Nectar. It's amazing what kind of job they did on the script. So it feels like a workstation. You have the preset names in the display of the keyboard. It has a nice color display.
Right.
You can operate Bitwig really from that thing without really touching it. They did it for Reason. They built the keyboard to do a total integration for Reason.
Right.
And that was before Bitwig even was out.
Yeah.
And Nectartech is our distributor in the States.
Yeah.
So we're working closely together. And then they started to script their keyboard for Bitwig also. And I love that integration.
Okay.
Great.
I'll have to look into that. At the moment, I'm in the very early stage of setting up a live sound design performance. So I'm going to be focused on the Kima environment.
Nice.
And the idea is to take real-time sounds from the audience and manipulate them into part of the music.
Wow.
And at the same time, I'm looking to be sort of incorporating real-time video manipulation with it. Still very early days at the moment, but I've been penning down Bitwig as the sort of host DAW for that. So I think with that sort of new MIDI specification, I think that could really change things. Very interesting.
Yeah, let me give you a hand if you can.
Yeah, definitely.
Any questions, whatever. Interesting stuff.
Yeah. So on the line of live performance, I know you've been part of the production act Time Coders.
Yeah.
Do you think this has an impact on how you code for music production tools?
No, I think it's the other way around.
Okay.
My day job has an impact on the time I have for doing music and stuff. So my parents always told me, learn something decent. Don't trust in the music thing, because my father was a musician already.
Yeah, the same here.
They were like, don't trust in that music thing.
That's some good advice. Don't do it.
Yeah, that didn't really help. So I did my programming education. And the first company I worked for was then actually Taratech, a sound card company from Germany.
I think I've heard of them.
So I directly tried to bring music back in there. And then it was in 2005 when I started at Ableton. Yeah. And did that for 7 years. And now it's Bitwig for 3 years. And the releases I did in that time really went down. Now, so actually, sure, the whole Bitwig thing and how we think is about all the years we actually did music ourselves. So every single developer in our little company does his own music, and I think you can tell that.
I think so. I think and I think that's part of the new generation of coders, is that you can tell. With certain tool developments and the general sort of progress, you can see they've come from a viewpoint of a musician or a performer of some descript.
Absolutely.
And I think,
and it makes sense. I see so many products out there that are, don't know how old, and every update is like, oh, it looks like the marketing department did have a look at what are the new functions in the other programs, then came to the meeting, okay, we have to get this and this and this in. They also have it. So and then they implement it in some way that no one actually tried to use it. So it's like dictated from another team in the company, and you don't do any usability testing then. And yeah, that's how you end up with a product that can do it all, but no one wants to use it. And yeah, having people that actually use that stuff, doing the specification and implement it, then makes more sense.
So you actually got started as a coder, and I guess that was one of the other questions is how important do you think formal education is in, well, I guess both music and computer science? Because I see a lot of people developing VSTs and things from their bedroom with no real coding education, and of course, with the same goes for music production these days. There's so many people don't have formal education.
Exactly.
How important do you think it is in this day and age?
The education is actually the hardest part of it, because it's rare that you or it's not even possible to go somewhere and I want to be like the best DSP developer. So what kind of university do I go to? Most often it doesn't work like that. If you take a look at IT in general, like IT security or artist things like 3D rendering, whatever, the best guys are not those that had the best grades in school and then doing university stuff. The best guys in IT that I know started to study IT. They had to work during studying it for part-time somewhere, and almost all of them never went through the whole study thing, but got bought away from a company that said, yeah, you're great, we want to hire you now. And it makes sense with IT because stuff is changing so quickly that you have to live that thing and you have to educate yourself. You can go to YouTube now and learn just anything. If you take a look at how good people are on some kind of instruments, and they never saw a teacher, they just do YouTube videos, and they're like 16. So normally you have a normal education as a programmer, and then you're interested in those topics just personally, and then you hack into that. If you take, for example, Klaus, our main DSP developer, he did the vocoder, for example, at Ableton. He was working at Ableton for a year, and he had his own little VST company before that. That was Vember Audio.
Okay.
It was the Surge VST, the synthesizer, and the short circuit, the sampler. So those oscillators are actually the oscillators in Polysynth.
Right.
I don't think that the skill that Klaus developed could be achieved really only with formal education. You have to read into that on your own, get the right papers and read up on stuff like filter design and things like that. It's a pretty small field. It's not too popular, I guess. It's hard to find good DSP guys.
Yeah, well, on that note, do you find that VST developers are doing what they should be these days, or do you think they're just relying too heavily on traditional ways of achieving sounds?
It's getting better. Like a few years ago, it was a bit exhausting that everyone was only doing emulations.
Yeah.
That was a bit sad.
Yeah.
If you take a look at the scene now, there are interesting things happening. There are new things that are actually... Take a look at all the live effect thing, VST, like the stutter effects, stuff like that.
Yeah.
10 years ago, no one thought about that. This is all made up by new workflows and then trying to be able to do it in real time. Also with synthesizers. Steve with Serum, great thing.
Yeah.
And this is something not trying to emulate an old synth. Hey, we have done that for years and years, but really new stuff and exciting stuff. I think it's okay, and the VST scene is so big, you can't really catch everything.
It is. It seems like I don't know, that there seemed to be a point maybe 5 or 6 years ago where the VST scene seemed almost saturated with the same things over and over again, and every synth was a subtractive synth, and every it just seemed to be regurgitating the same thing over and over again. I just wonder if perhaps you think do you think there's a gap in VST development at the moment? Is there something, maybe a trick somewhere that they're missing out on, whether it be, new methods of, say, envelope following or something? Because I know technology's progressed so fast now that, if you look at additive synthesis now, it wasn't that long ago that additive synthesis would have been almost impossible on using CPUs. I remember reading a paper probably 10 years ago, and somebody had used a graphics GPU to build an additive synth, and was able to layer in, I think it was something like 1 million sounds, and at the time that was just hugely groundbreaking. Whereas now, if you look at, Reactor being my personal favorite additive synth, it's CPU friendly.
Yeah, with nowadays CPUs, I mean, it's unbelievable what kind of CPU power we have now.
Do you think maybe there's something? I guess the question is there a dream synth in your head that you think, or not necessarily a synth, it could be an effects unit? Is there something that you think we should be looking at now, and something that should be maybe researched more when you take into account the progress of technology?
I think the whole technology regarding sound synthesis and effects is really totally okay. I'm not missing anything. If I could think of anything cool to add that, then let's do it directly.
Yeah.
But I think the problem at the moment is just not really the sound creation or the algorithms and all that stuff, but really how to use it. Like I mentioned, the MIDI specification for doing more expressive control over MIDI notes, because like Roger Lynn always puts it, we are still playing with on and off switches.
It's true, yeah.
And compare that to an instrument. If you play the guitar, what's that? That's a piece of wood with 6 strings of steel.
Yeah.
But what kind of expression can you get out of that? We can't emulate that still in a really convincing way with a machine or with a program. And that's not actually the problem of the sound creation, but how we control it.
Yeah.
Because we could just come up with enough algorithms how to make the sound expressive, and the whole physical modeling stuff is really great since years now. The problem, what's lacking is how to actually play this. With my keyboard? I mean, even polyphonic aftertouch is really rare. And how can I play a guitar with, like Roger says,
it's true,
on and off switches?
I have seen, I've given a few talks in a few of these seminars, like the producer sessions live, and whenever I've been to these things, I guess like NAMM show, I see so many hardware developers trying to make something new that isn't black and white keys on a keyboard. What's wrong with these people? I mean, I'll be honest, every single time I've been to one of these shows and I've tried some new bit of kit, I've walked out laughing because I thought, no, everything just seems wrong.
Exactly. Most often they somehow seem awkward to use or even to look at. It's all a bit alien. But I think it's interesting times, and I think it's great that they actually try to do something new.
Sure.
There will be most of those projects will just die out, but it's actually exploring stuff that works or not. Like the Eigenharp, for example, was a bit too crazy for me.
Yeah.
And then Roger Lim comes around the corner, the inventor of the good old 16 pads, the MPC, and he just does the instrument, and I tried that, and that was the first one I really had the feelings, oh wow, I want to get that.
Yeah.
That's really cool, because I play a bit of guitar and I play a bit of keyboard, and that was just like a mixture. Because I could bend sounds and I could play chords with the shape of my fingers. And you also have the, have you checked it out? Because you can hit those little pads, you can slide it up and down, and you can, also to the left and to the right, and you can wiggle your finger also up and down and control the note like that. And that just doesn't feel wrong. It's not a completely alien feeling thing now in your hands where you really have to retrain. It's like, I really love that thing.
Yeah, I think I probably need to borrow one or something at some point and check it out.
Really have to try it.
Yeah, it's. I know I've seen images of it floating around the internet, and I think I've probably dismissed it from what I was just saying about going to these shows and trying out new instruments or trigger tools of various sorts. They all seem to be trying to do something but not actually doing anything. I know I saw one, was it last year? I think it was just this big sphere with a bunch of buttons on it, and it just didn't make any sense, because essentially all it was some trigger pads.
I know.
Which, like you say, were just on-off switches, and they had 64 samples you could load in, and that was essentially it. And, I sort of walked away from there going, well, why would I use that? Why would I not use a keyboard for that? Because all you've done is got a keyboard and bent it into a sphere.
Or like taking an MPC and putting the pads on a ball.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I think there's even a reason for such devices. It's a bit like Jean-Michel Jarre playing his big-ass laser harp. I mean, it's not because he has cool expression over the sound. And it's not even that the lasers triggered the sound, but the infrared beams.
Yeah.
And the lasers just visualized it. But hey, it looked cool on stage.
It's true.
I mean, that's another big problem acts have these days. They're standing there with the instrument they used to produce the album, and that's their laptop. and actually performing the music, or let's start with producing the music, looks totally boring.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always the first one to admit, having been a laptop performer for many years, I'm always the first one to admit that I know a lot of the time it probably looks like I'm just checking my emails,
That's how it is. And while producing that stuff, it exactly looks like
Yeah.
checking your emails. And then you have the problem, you want to put that on stage, and how to give your audience now a concert experience. And there are also more ways to do that. Like, have you seen that Amon Tobin thing?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, he's sitting in a cube. You most of the time you can't see him at all.
Yeah.
But he visualizes the whole music in such a great way on that stage he built. So that's cool. You don't have to see him pressing the buttons that make the sounds.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably the best way to take advantage of a bad situation, really, is to make something of that bad situation. So, rather than having the person as the performer, you have the stage as the performer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can also do it the whole other way around. Take a look at the Prodigy.
Yeah.
Playing the songs from 2 laptops.
Yeah.
But leaving away the tracks or adding tracks. I mean, the drummer is playing live to it. And you can hear that.
Yeah.
And he rocks like crazy.
Yeah.
The guitar is playing live to it. And he's also just great. The shouting by Keith and Maxime, also that are all live elements that add up to it, and then it looks like a punk band, and it works like that.
Yeah.
So that's the other way to do it. But if you're just a one-guy bedroom producer type of artist, then you really have to think how to make it interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't even remember the name of that sphere thing.
Yeah,
maybe such things are interesting to put it on stage so that people actually can see how a trigger sounds, even if it's just like playing pads, but making it a bit more fancy.
Yeah, I don't see it myself.
No, it's also not my way to do.
I'm all for embracing new technology and new techniques and methods, but I think that was just an old method in a different shape.
There was another funny one I saw on this year's Musikmesse. Also didn't get the name, but it was like an accordion.
Yeah, I think I might have seen a video of that.
That was one of the most funny ones I saw, I think.
You just wonder what these guys are doing at home,
playing accordion, I guess.
Well, yeah, I suppose. He must be sat there going, I love my accordion. I also love EDM. How can I merge the two together?
I think we started a new trend now.
Oh, God. Look out, Avicii. I've got an accordion. So
yeah, but I think it all happened before like that. Those old electronic flute things, those breath. What are they called in English? Those breath converter thingies. Also not a bad idea. Just to use your fingers and your mouth to actually.
Well, actually, talking of fingers, Imogen Heap, I think, does a great job of the live performance thing as well, because she has a laptop running in the background, as far as I'm aware, and so rather than getting the expression from an instrument, she gets it from her gloves that she wears, and I think she has like a filter assigned to, say, the index finger, and then the resonance would be another finger, and then it will read the horizontal and vertical dimensions of those as well. So as she raises her hand up, the filter would open up and the resonance would increase, and then if she twists her hand, maybe the chorus will come in, or the wet dry of something,
It's a bit like Minority Report.
Yeah, no, it's exactly like that. But it does amazing things,
great.
And she does that in real
really
time
great live.
to her vocals as well, which is, I think, a clever thing. Because you can see the visual element is seeing her sing and perform live, but the audio element of that appears so complex.
Yeah, and merging that, you can actually hear that she's singing live, but you are playing like stutter effects or things like that onto it. So yeah, that's a great thing to do, because you want to have that live element, else you can just play the album. So if the person is on stage who performed the song, it's her voice, wow, do it on stage. And if it's really possible to do it with live effects, then that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, so I guess that's probably the big hole in the industry right now for dance music producers to perform live. You know, there isn't really, there's no real instrument that we could play live other than maybe chords or top line melody on a synth.
Exactly.
And I suppose that's probably the big gap in the market. Maybe somewhere someone will invent some device that does something new. And I guess that's probably where the future lies.
Yeah, I think it's a development. People are trying out now new things, and something will develop out of that.
Yeah.
You have to just take a few wrong steps to know what the right direction is. And you also don't know how the market reacts, so it's always a bit trying things. But yeah, it's what is funny is that so many things now get applied to tracks in the studio. If you take a look at how the guys produce EDM these days, and you have effects on different notes and resampling like crazy. That's why also the bounce and plays was something we really wanted to do, because you need it the whole day nowadays, and it's a pain in the rear to do it in other software. And what's also is interesting, you have mostly VST effects maybe on your voice in your studio production, and then you bring it on stage.
Yeah.
And even big acts like The Prodigy, for example, again. I know John Burton, who is the front of house mixer for them since ever.
Right.
Such a nice guy.
Okay.
He is actually feeding the mics from the stage through a laptop with the VSTs on it that were used on the album, so that Keith, when he does the Firestarter, sounds exactly like on the record.
Yeah.
But it's not a playback, but he's actually putting his voice to the VSTs they used during the production. And even that works. So I think VST-wise, we were really fine. It's just how to influence the sound as a human. Yeah.
I guess that's the key, isn't it? Is the human interaction with sound. Yeah. Do you find I'll bring it back to Bitwig on that note. And I guess with talking about VST development and everything, I think one of the big issues that seems to come across time and time again, certainly from a musician's perspective, is that nowadays with the internet being the way it is, and piracy being a major issue for some people, I think the crux of the issue when it comes to piracy from a musician's standpoint is that I'm lucky enough that my main income comes from engineering and production and writing and things, so it's quite there's a multitude of avenues where that happens. But as an artist, when I release my own music, and you watch you watch the piracy reports come in, and you think, well, hang on, that's been pirated more than it's been sold, and that sort of leaves you in a position where you don't really you don't really have the R&D budget then, I guess, to make more interesting or new or creative things. Do you find that this has a similar impact on things like, well, obviously Bitwig or coding in general? Do you find that, I guess what I'm asking is, what's your opinion on piracy when it comes to DAWs?
That's a great and interesting topic. And yeah, my parents said I should learn something decent. Mm-hmm. So now we are selling music software to musicians that are always broke instead of making money out of music.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
To me personally, I thought it was really bad, because I also started with 15, 16 in the 90s. And back then, when you had a club hit, you would sell like 5,000 vinyls.
Yeah.
And then it would be a club hit.
Yeah.
And actually that would be decent money for a month or two.
Yeah.
And back in the days when you did a remix, there were just standard fees for that. Mm-hmm. You would just get $2,000 and do a remix.
Yeah.
That all went down, and for a long time I thought, man, that's bad, and all the piracy thing. But then someday I took a step back and thought about how it really is. So we have the internet. There's no way around it.
Mm-hmm.
And it started even before. If you take a look at human history and arts and music, people were always performing for others. And that's how they made a living.
Yeah.
There was just not a way to store music and then play it back as a medium. So people could just take your song and play it themselves, and then they would be paid because they are playing music to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Then suddenly, and that's not too long ago, industry was able to put music on media and sell it. And that media was not, it was just not possible to recreate it at home.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't do your own vinyl, or when the CDs came,
Yeah.
you just couldn't do your own CD. And what they did, actually, they cashed in on being able to put it on a medium and sell it to you.
Yeah.
You were not really paying for the music. And actually, now it's back again. You can't make shitloads of money for a release that is just a copy of your work anyway, but they're charging for that copy. I think what you can see now, it goes back to the good old days. As a musician, as an artist, you have to play for your crowd. So it's more or less like you have a release out, and then you make the money because people want to see you and you DJ or you do live gigs. That's where people get the money from. Even Madonna, like for years and years now, is signed to her touring company and not getting the money from her album really to make big bucks. That's how it is these days. And now it's totally interesting to see people like, I don't know, where did I see it? With Deadmau5. Also, great Bitwig fan now. He just streams from his studio while working on tracks. And people can make an account for, I don't know what the price is, like $5 a month or something like that.
I don't think it's even that much. I signed up when he first launched it. I think it was like $20 or something for a year. Yeah.
And yeah, somehow that take away the middleman, the labels, go directly to the crowd. And if you have a crowd, it is worth something to them. It might not be like $5 for a song, but it might be that they are happy to pay whatever fee to have a better contact to you, or to be able to take a look into your studio. Hick Silent, or what was his name? Was he Polish? Also EDM, dubstep style. He also does the same. I also saw that because he switched over to Bitwig from Cubase and was doing a few videos with him doing his first track in Bitwig Studio.
Right.
And yeah, I think the whole piracy when it comes to music is like that. It's not that the copy of your music that gets distributed by somebody, be it iTunes or being it a streaming service or being it your label. I think those days are over. And when thinking about like that, I think it is not that bad. It was more like a pervert time of a few years.
It's true.
That you could actually make money out of the technique of doing a CD, and you can't do it at home. As soon as that was possible at home, you would do it there, and boom.
Yeah.
Same happens now with 3D printers.
I think I think it's it's an interesting point, but and I think it's even more interesting that you make that point actually when you come from a development side of a DAW.
Yeah, exactly. That is all a bit different. We can shift to that topic also, because I think that's all a bit different when it comes to software to a product. So yeah, that's the music side and how I see it. With software, it's different. It's because that is a tool you use. It's not the work of someone else that you listen to in a total passive way, but that's a tool for you. And yeah, piracy is a topic. And you can get just any product out there without paying for it. And as a software company, you actually try to find ways how to make your money anyway, because you want to feed your family and get the product going.
Yeah.
So to me, it's wrong to try to do big copy protection mechanisms. And what I hate is dongles. I hate them. I detest them.
Yeah.
So it's just that, wow, we have now a complete studio in a laptop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in order to use all my tools, I have to connect 4 dongles.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that about? So I download the crack. I'm fine. I don't have to do a dongle connection, whatever. So don't punish your customers for the people that are actually copying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes no sense. And to me, it's like, just be transparent to your customers. Show them that you actually listen to them, and, for example, or the most important thing, do updates.
Yeah. Yeah.
A few years ago, it was you would do a new product version number, so it's at version 3. You put it out there. There are a few bugs in there. You do bug fixing for 2 or 3 months, and then you are at, I don't know, version 3.2, and then that's it. Development stop for that one, and you put your development time into the next version.
How do you feel about the whole subscription methods that, people like Adobe or Avid or DigiDesign or whoever it is now, I can't remember. Have you had those discussions at Bitwig?
It's also a nice model, and it's actually what I think is the right thing to do, because the old way, like I described, to do a few bug fix updates after a major version upgrade and that's it, that's just wrong. What we try to show the people is that we put the version out, and we actually constantly fix bugs. First good thing about that, the guys who crack software, they just jump on the first major version that comes out, then on version 2, version 3, they crack that, and then that's it. They don't touch again then version 2.02, 2.03, 2.04, and if you suffer from some kind of bug that is in there, and then you have to wait for the crack of the next major version, so and you can constantly see the updates coming for the official version where your crack doesn't work. So that's the best copy protection you can do, because there will always be bugs. Just new plugins come out, new operating system versions come out every time. So something breaks. And it's good just to do that. Coming to the subscription model, it's a bit complicated. It depends a bit on the product. If you have like a company and you have 10 people working with this product and you know how long they use that, subscription is cool. Most people that would be our customers, it's not that the majority makes a living with music.
No.
Most of them just are hobbyists.
Yeah.
And the problem with the subscription model is, sometimes you just don't time for your music for like 2 months.
Yeah.
So you would always have to renew your subscription or quit it while not working on it. And so for that, people are at the moment more fine with actually buying it, and then they know they own it.
So it's not something you're looking at introducing anytime soon to...
No, not anytime soon. So it might be interesting way down the road then with a whole network collaboration thing, that you maybe can just, hey, I want to use Bitwig Studio with this guy for 2 weeks.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's
so that might be an idea.
Yeah.
So, but it's nothing that we are approaching at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I think Adobe's probably a good example from my perspective. I do touch up a few photos here and there just as a hobby, and I like the graphics manipulation every now and then, and video manipulation, but I would never subscribe to the Adobe system. I'm still on Photoshop. I don't even know what it is, 5 or 6, I think, because I didn't want to subscribe, because I only I open the software maybe once every 3 months, and spend a day on it, and that's it.
And you don't need the new stuff, so a subscription would not really work for that.
But I like the idea of a subscription model for other people to collaborate with me. It actually makes sense then, I guess. If it allowed me to, for example, share a project with someone who didn't use Bitwig, and they were able to pay a small subscription fee to be able to have access to my project for, X amount of weeks.
Like temporary, exactly. Yeah.
Then that certainly starts to make sense. Interesting. Okay, well, I guess we're coming to the end of the podcast now.
How long was it now? Already an hour.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
There's
go on for an hour.
Let's do it.
That's fun.
There's one question which I'm going to ask everyone. I think, to be honest, you've probably kind of not answered it already in that there isn't an answer. But the one question I'm going to ask everyone is, if you could have one piece of technology invented for you, what would it be and why? And I guess this question kind of covers not necessarily just studio, but life in general. Is there something that you think a piece of technology could just fix?
Yeah, sure. It's 2015 now, and they promised us the hoverboards, and they're still not there.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah.
And what we are always joking about is the flux capacitor, because it would make PDC so much easier. The whole latency thing in a DAW and trying to get the PDC right is really doing your head in.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how complicated it is. You do routing stuff between different tracks, you have sidechaining between different tracks, you have plugins that introduce latency, you have latency that comes from the audio buffer from the sound card, and that's why in the modular system we use to build the devices in Bitwig, the one that we will open up to the customers in the future version, there is actually a little module, like an reactor, that does the PDC within devices, and that has the little flux capacitor icon, more or less. I don't know if people can still follow us. We are old blokes and we still know Back to the Future.
Well, to be honest, if listeners don't know Back to the Future, then they shouldn't be listening. It's as simple as that.
No, honestly, I think it is really heading into the right direction now in general. I was always dreaming of being able to have my whole studio on a laptop.
Yeah.
Starting in the 90s with a desktop machine, and the first VSTs were out. It was only effects, not synthesizers yet. Or first version, Rebirth came out with a 303, 808, 909 stuff. And it was like, wow, yeah, I can totally see. I can produce all my stuff on the machine, but it wasn't quite there yet. And you had buffer underruns, and it was too slow. And I was like, yeah, someday it will work. We're heading there right now. And now all the interface things that that would be my answer. I would wish for better interfacing to my software. And exactly this is happening now. On the one hand, we're working on those controller things to make MIDI controllers more expressive. On the other hand, we're currently working closely with Microsoft, with the Surface team. I don't know if you have seen it. Now doing Summer NAMM 3 weeks ago. We did the keynote together with Microsoft for the Summer NAMM because we worked on a version, or more or less a screen set for the Microsoft Surface, the Surface Pro. And I totally love the idea of multi-touch for a DAW.
Yeah.
If it fits also into my backpack and it has more power than a normal, like something like an iPad or an Android pad, where we're just the power is not there yet. So we have an i7 there with a big SSD and 16 or 8 gig of RAM, and then you have Bitwig Studio on there, and it works with multi-touch, and this is really exciting. I wish now for really a badass tablet with a slightly bigger screen than the Surface has now, and being able to just sit in a train or whatever and work like with a Groovebox or an MPC, but also being just able to plug it in just as I can do now with my laptop in the studio or at work, and have a big screen on that and a big setup. So we're nearly there. So for a few years now, I'm doing just everything I do on my laptop, at home, at the office, in the studio, when playing records in clubs. Everything is on that machine and it works. So yeah, part of the dream already came true. It now has to get a bit more science fiction now than just the good old mouse. But we are going there.
Let's hope. Yeah. And there's huge potential in that with multi-touch.
Yeah, it is. And then all the thing that is to come, like trying to put haptic stuff on a touchscreen, like Apple already did now with the trackpads. That make you think you click, but it actually just does a little wiggle in the horizontal thing. It doesn't get pressed down.
Yeah.
And being able to feel things on a touchpad or on a touch screen, this is something that will come. And also the whole augmented reality things, stuff like Oculus Rift and all those VR goggles are coming into play now. I mean, imagine we can collaborate in a 3D space, and I say, hey Dom, just throw over the baseline clip or whatever, and you can run around in a virtual arrangement and do things. So yeah, there's so many ideas and so many things that can be done still. Still dreaming.
That blows my mind. Yeah, I guess, yeah, I mean, haptics are starting to trickle through. I hadn't realized that haptics had even reached the music industry yet. I know 4 or 5 years ago, a couple of friends of mine started doing their PhDs in haptics. And I know one of them had designed some drumsticks that helped you to play the drums because they would just nudge you in the right direction by listening to the rhythm you were playing.
That sounds interesting. So it's like quantizing you a bit.
Yeah, they were. I can't remember how they did it in the end. I think they ended up using like a ferrofluid, like a magnetic fluid inside the drumstick that would tilt to one side or the other depending on whether they wanted you to put the stick down or lift it up. Very clever stuff. I hadn't realized we'd come so far in such a short space of time, to be honest. But yeah, it's interesting.
It's all accelerating.
It is scary.
That's the thing with technology.
Yeah. And on that note, I will end the podcast there. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute
pleasure. Yeah, exactly.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. And whenever you want to continue on that, I will be there for you. No problem.
Thank you. Cheers.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks to everyone who's tuned in for this, and if you'd like any more information on the podcast or any of our guest interviews, you can head to kaneaudio.com/podcast. I'd also like to thank everyone who's helped spread the word of our last episode. It's been really appreciated. Any shares it gets across social media really does make a difference. If you'd like to get involved and suggest any other guests or features, you can email us directly using podcast@kaneaudio.com or find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google, and all the usual places. Cheers. Thanks for listening.